They said it was just a story, a bedtime warning told to keep children from wandering into the woods, but last night, under the full moon, I heard the howl, long, deep, and close. And when I turned around, I realized the stories weren't myths, they were warnings. They said it was just a story, a bedtime warning told to keep children from wandering into the woods. But last night, under the full moon, I heard the howl, long, deep, and close. And when I turned around, I realized the stories weren't myths, they were warnings. My name is Ethan, and curiosity has always been my weakness. Some call me reckless, I call it courage, or maybe just stupidity. Either way, it led me here, standing at the edge of the forest where the trees whispered secrets no human was meant to hear. The moon hung heavy in the sky, silver light spilling across the gnarled branches. That's when I heard it, a low, haunting howl, echoing off the hills in a way that made the hair on my arms stand on end. It wasn't a wolf. It was bigger, older, dangerous. I paused, heart hammering, debating whether to turn back. The town had warned us about these woods. Stories passed down from parents who claimed children disappeared, lured by shadows and cries. But something in that sound called me forward. My feet moved almost on their own, stepping into the moonlit path, every snapped twig underfoot sending shivers through my chest. Then I saw it, a shadowy figure darting between the trees, too fast for any human. I froze. My breath fogged the cold night air, and then it vanished. But it left something behind, deep claw marks gouged into the tree bark, fresh and glistening under the moonlight. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a story, not even close. I swallowed hard, stepping closer to inspect the marks. My mind screamed at me to leave, to run back to the safety of streetlights and neighbors. But my curiosity overpowered fear. That's when I heard movement just behind me, subtle but unmistakable. Leaves rustled, shadows shifted. I spun around and nothing. My heart raced. The forest was alive, whispering, watching, waiting. And I knew one thing for certain. Whatever made those claw marks wasn't done with me yet. If you want to uncover the truth about what I saw, subscribe now. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. And then a low growl rumbled from somewhere in the darkness, so close I could feel it in my chest. Something moved behind me, something watching, something patient. The low growl faded, leaving only the cold wind rustling through the trees. I took a tentative step forward, eyes scanning the darkness. The forest seemed endless, every shadow twitching with life. My pulse hammered in my ears as I tried to convince myself it was just an animal, maybe a wolf. But I knew better. Something was out there, something that didn't belong in this world. By the time I stumbled back toward town, the first hints of dawn were brushing the sky with pale light. My mind was a storm of questions, but one thought dominated. I had to know what I had seen. That morning the town seemed normal, deceptively quiet, as if the world hadn't shifted beneath my feet the night before. I wandered the streets still on edge when I saw her, a girl standing by the fountain in the town square watching me. Her hair shimmered like dark silk under the early sun, and her eyes, they were sharp, almost too knowing. She smiled briefly, a hint of something unreadable. My stomach nodded. There was something familiar in the way she looked at me, but I couldn't place it. "Ethan," she said softly. Just like that. My name on her lips, effortless, almost intimate. I froze. I hadn't introduced myself, hadn't said a word. "Do I know you?" I asked, my voice catching. "You'll know soon enough," she replied, and before I could respond, she turned and walked away. But it wasn't a normal departure. Her movements were fluid, almost gliding, and by the time I blinked, she had disappeared into the narrow streets between buildings. Something in my chest tightened. She knew things about me, about the forest. The stories I had ignored, the warnings I had dismissed, she seemed to carry them all in her gaze. I followed, heart racing, but no matter how fast I ran or how many turns I took, she was gone. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving only the echo of her steps behind. Frustrated, I turned back toward the forest, my curiosity stronger than my fear. That's when I noticed something at the edge of the tree line. A fresh carcass, half hidden under fallen leaves. But it wasn't normal. Its body was twisted, clawed in a way that made my stomach churn. The markings were unlike anything nature could produce, jagged and deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. The shadow from last night, the growl, the figure in town. It all began to make a terrifying kind of sense. Something hunted here. Something intelligent. Something that was watching me, learning me. And then I realized I wasn't alone. Somewhere beyond the trees, in the soft rustle of leaves, I could feel eyes on me, studying me, waiting. I crouched beside the carcass, stomach twisting as I tried to steady my shaking hands. The markings on the body were wrong. Deep, jagged gouges tore across its flesh, far too wide and deep to belong to any natural predator I had ever seen. The claws themselves were enormous, curved, and deadly. My rational mind screamed at me to run, to leave the forest behind forever. But curiosity, that reckless spark that had brought me here in the first place, refused to let me go. A rustle in the underbrush made me jump. Out of the shadows stepped Lyra. She looked as calm as ever, like she had been waiting for me all along. But there was an edge to her expression now, a warning hidden beneath her serene gaze. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly, her voice low but urgent. "None of this is meant for humans to see." I swallowed hard. I have to know. I need to understand what's happening. Her eyes narrowed. "Understanding will not save you, Ethan. Curiosity in these woods can be lethal. Go home." Her warning felt like a slap across my face, but I couldn't move. Not yet. She turned, slipping silently into the trees, leaving only the echo of her words and an unshakable sense of dread. Night fell quickly, faster than I expected, and the forest transformed. Shadows thickened, twisting around the trees. The moon rose, full and silver, casting pale light across the path. That's when I heard it, a howl. Not like last night, but closer, sharper, more deliberate, as if the forest itself were speaking through the beast. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. The sound wasn't far off. It was near, maybe only a few hundred feet away. My mind raced with warnings I had ignored, instincts screaming at me to retreat. But I couldn't. Something about the sound drew me forward, pulled me deeper into the forest's dark heart. And then it happened. A shadow burst from the trees, a blur of fur and teeth impossibly fast. I barely had time to scream before it lunged. The world became a whirl of darkness and fear. My vision tunneled, my body frozen in terror as the creature collided with me. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the forest was silent again. Only the pale moonlight and the claw marks in the dirt remained. But deep inside, I knew this was far from over. Something had touched me. Something intelligent and hungry, and I could feel it still watching. Waiting. When I came to, the forest had changed. The air smelled different. Sharp, wild, almost electric. I lay on a bed of pine needles, stiff and sore, the taste of dirt still clinging to my mouth. Above me, the silver light of the full moon spilled through the branches, painting everything in ghostly white. And that's when I noticed. I wasn't alone. Lyra knelt beside me, her hands hovering near my shoulders as if she feared I might vanish again. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of relief, caution, and something else I couldn't name. "You're awake," she said softly. "You shouldn't have survived that encounter without help." I tried to sit up. What was that thing? Last night, in the shadows, My voice cracked, disbelief etched into every syllable. Lyra's eyes darkened. You're seeing the world as it really is now, Ethan. That wasn't just an animal. That was one of us. One of us. I froze, the words not fully registering. Us? She sighed, glancing at the moon. Werewolves exist. I belong to a pack that's been protecting this forest for generations. And now, you've seen what most humans can't even imagine. Before I could respond, a howl shattered the silence, long, mournful, and undeniably close. Then, before my very eyes, a figure in the clearing began to shift. Limbs elongated, muscles knotted and expanded, fur sprouting in rippling waves, eyes gleaming yellow in the moonlight. I stumbled backward, horrified and fascinated. This was a full moon transformation. Lyra's voice was calm, almost clinical, as she guided me. This is what I am. This is what my pack is. We are bound to the moon, to the forest, and to each other. Do not look away. Do not blink. If you do, you might miss the truth of our world entirely. My heart pounded, fear and awe mixing into something I couldn't name. Every muscle, every bone of the creature before me was perfect and terrifying, alive with raw power. And in that moment, I understood just how fragile my human body really was. Then the moment shattered. A distant, piercing scream rang from the village outskirts, one that made my stomach turn cold. Lyra's gaze followed the sound. Her lips pressed into a tight line. It can't be. Not yet, she whispered, almost to herself. I turned my head toward the direction she was staring and froze. Among the flickering shadows of the village, a wolf-like figure moved with terrifying purpose, unnervingly familiar. My chest tightened as recognition struck me like a lightning bolt. It was someone I knew, someone from my past, and that wolf. It was heading straight toward the unsuspecting villagers. The wolf from my past disappeared into the shadows as quickly as it had appeared, leaving a cold dread clinging to my chest. I glanced at Lyra, whose eyes were sharp and focused, scanning the forest and the village. She turned to me, her face unreadable, but firm. We need to go. Now, she said. I didn't argue. My legs still shook from the night's revelations, but some deep part of me knew there was no going back to ignorance. We moved swiftly through the forest, Lyra guiding me to a clearing I could never have found alone. There, hidden beneath thick trees, was a camp. Small fires flickered, tents scattered, and figures moved with purposeful grace. Lyra stopped at the edge, her hand lightly resting on my shoulder. This is my pack, she said softly, eyes scanning the group. You must understand, everything here follows strict rules. Each of us has a role, a place, and a responsibility. Breaking them, it can mean death. I swallowed hard. The creatures around the fires weren't fully human, but not fully beast either. Some moved on all fours, fur glinting in the firelight. Others stood upright, eyes glowing faintly, their gazes sharp and calculating. It was a world of subtle dominance and power, and I was utterly out of my depth. Lyra led me through the group, introducing members by name and rank, Alpha, Beta, and a hierarchy that felt as old as the forest itself. Whispers followed us, some curious, some suspicious. I felt their eyes on me, measuring, judging. Every pack has rivalries, Lyra explained. Every action is watched. Every word can tilt the balance of power. Her voice was calm, but the tension in the air made my skin prickle. You must never forget that loyalty is survival, and betrayal can destroy everything. As she spoke, I noticed subtle interactions between the pack members. Sharp glares exchanged across the fire, whispered words meant for no human ears, and gestures that conveyed warning, anger, or distrust. Each move had meaning, each glance a signal. Then, as I drifted closer to one of the smaller tents, I saw it, hidden beneath the shadow of a tree. A pack member, someone I had already met, was speaking quietly into a carved bone whistle, a symbol of allegiance to someone outside the pack. My heart skipped. The figure was plotting against Lyra, scheming in secrecy, betraying the very person who had saved my life. I backed away slowly, trying to process what I had just witnessed. The pack's intricate web of loyalty, power, and danger was far more fragile than I had imagined, and now, unknowingly, I had just stepped onto one of the tightest threads of all. Lyra's voice snapped me from my thoughts, low and serious. "You're not ready to know everything, but soon, everything will demand your attention." The fire crackled, shadows danced, and I realized I was deeper in the forest and deeper in danger than I had ever been before, and the whispers of betrayal were just beginning. The whispers of betrayal in the pack still haunted me as I followed Lyra through the darkened forest. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig set my nerves on edge. I had just begun to understand the delicate balance of the pack, and now a new, unknown danger loomed on the horizon. By the next evening, news spread quietly through the town. A stranger had arrived, someone tall, lean, and unnervingly precise. The locals called him a hunter, though details were scarce. Only one thing was certain: he was tracking something, and it wasn't ordinary game. Lyra's eyes narrowed when she heard the whispers. "He's here," she said, voice tight. "And he's not like the others. He knows what he's looking for, and he won't stop until he finds it." I followed her as she moved through the forest with a speed and grace I could barely match. The air felt electric, charged with danger. Every sense screamed at me to stay close. Yet part of me wondered, could I really survive a hunter trained to kill creatures like Lyra? Hours later, we stumbled upon him. Or rather, he found us. A shadow detached itself from the trees, a man, but with the cold precision of a predator. His eyes were sharp, calculating, scanning the forest floor for tracks, for signs. And then he froze, lifting a hand to gesture to something unseen. It was clear. He was tracking us. Lyra's posture stiffened. "Stay behind me," she whispered. Before I could ask why, the hunter's gaze swept over us, as if he could sense not just our presence, but our very intentions. The wind carried a faint metallic scent. Traps, snares, weapons, everything that spelled death. Suddenly, a branch snapped nearby. The hunter moved with lightning speed, arrows nocked, weapons drawn. Lyra grabbed my arm, pulling me sideways, leaping over roots and fallen logs. Our hearts pounded in unison, and I realized just how deadly he was. Every step, every move felt like a battle for survival. We barely made it to the safety of a dense thicket. My lungs burned, sweat stinging my eyes, but even as we paused, I knew the hunter wasn't far behind. His eyes had followed us, unblinking, calculating. Lyra's jaw tightened. "This isn't over," she muttered, almost to herself. Her sharp gaze darted back toward the direction we had fled. "He's setting something, a trap, and he knows where to lure me." I felt my chest tighten, dread settling deep in my bones. A trap for Lyra, and I would be helpless to stop it. The forest around us was alive with anticipation, every shadow a potential threat. Somewhere beyond the trees, the hunter moved silently, preparing his snare. And I knew one truth with terrifying clarity. Tonight, the real hunt had begun. The forest around us was unnervingly silent, as if it too was holding its breath. Lyra's eyes darted from shadow to shadow, muscles coiled and ready. My chest ached with fear, the knowledge that the hunter was out there, setting his trap, weighing heavily on me. Every step felt like a march into the unknown. As we crept closer to the pack's territory, whispers and subtle movements among the trees caught my attention. Something didn't feel right. I remembered the figure I had seen before, the pack member secretly communicating, feeding information to the hunter. Could this be the night their betrayal came to light? I slipped closer, careful to stay hidden. There, barely visible in the dim firelight, was the traitor, a tall, lean wolf of the pack, crouched low, whispering into a carved whistle. The metallic glint of something in their hand reflected the moonlight. My stomach turned. They were providing the hunter with exact locations, routines, weaknesses, everything. Every word, every move of Lyra and the pack laid bare for the hunter. Before I could react, Lyra's hand grabbed my arm, her grip firm, but trembling. "Ethan," she whispered, eyes scanning the clearing. "They're watching you as much as I am. You can't interfere, not yet. If they suspect you know, it could be fatal for all of us." Her voice was calm, but her usual confidence wavered. Even within her pack, loyalty was fragile, and my intrusion had already stirred suspicion. Some pack members eyed me coldly, muttering, exchanging glances that burned with unspoken accusations. I realized then that I was more a threat than I had imagined. And then it happened. A faint, almost inaudible snap of a wire hidden beneath the underbrush. Lyra's eyes widened. "No," she breathed. Too late. Her movements were trapped. I tried to reach her, but the snare was swift, strong, and precise. Lyra let out a scream that cut through the forest, sharp, desperate, and filled with pain. I lunged forward, but the hunter's trap had done its work. She dangled from a taut wire, limbs restrained, claws scraping against ropes that seemed to bite into her flesh. My hands shook, heart hammering, as I realized I was powerless. The hunter had orchestrated this perfectly. Every detail, every weak point accounted for. The pack members who had watched in silence now shifted nervously, whispers rising in anxious murmurs. Some eyes, I noticed, lingered with guilt, evidence of the traitor's betrayal. Lyra's eyes met mine, burning with a mix of fury and fear. "Ethan, you have to get out, survive. Fight back." Her words were urgent, commanding, yet tinged with desperation. And then, from somewhere deeper in the forest, I heard it. The low, cruel chuckle of the hunter, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, calculated, precise. Lyra's scream echoed through the trees, bouncing off every shadow, every leaf, every root. And I realized with gut-wrenching clarity, I had no idea how to save her. Lyra's screams echoed through the forest, bouncing off the twisted trees, filling me with a fear so raw it stole my breath. My heart pounded violently against my ribs, but fear was quickly replaced by determination. I couldn't wait for the pack or anyone else. I had to act. I had to save her. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but not away. Forward. I darted through the underbrush, leaping over roots, dodging low-hanging branches, moving toward the source of the screams. The hunter's traps were everywhere. Hidden wires, camouflaged pits, and the faint glint of something metallic under the moonlight. I could feel the weight of danger pressing on me with every step. When I reached Lyra, she was already struggling, her movements restrained yet purposeful. Then I saw it, the truth of her strength. With a swift twist of her limbs and a surge of raw, uncanny power, she broke free from the snare, landing lightly on the ground, as if she weighed nothing at all. Her eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, fierce and commanding, and for the first time, I realized just how dangerous she really was. "Go, now," she commanded, her voice sharp and unwavering. "You've done enough following me." I hesitated, torn between wanting to help and the dawning realization that she could handle herself. Together we sprinted through the forest, the hunter's footsteps echoing somewhere behind us, precise, deliberate, and terrifying. Every rustle of leaves or snapping twig felt like a countdown to discovery. We narrowly avoided several traps, pitfalls hidden under leaves, ropes strung to snap across the necks of intruders, sharpened stakes camouflaged in the dirt. Lyra moved with supernatural agility, guiding me, keeping us one step ahead of the hunter. I had never seen anything like it. Her reflexes, her speed, her calculated precision. She wasn't just strong. She was lethal. Finally, we emerged from the forest into a clearing, chest heaving, sweat stinging our eyes. For a moment, relief washed over me. But it was short-lived. I saw the subtle shift in Lyra's expression, a flicker of worry. "He knows about you now," she muttered, eyes scanning the shadows where the hunter had retreated. "He'll come for you next." I swallowed hard, unease gnawing at my stomach. We couldn't return to my home, but when we dared to glance in the direction of the town, horror struck. Smoke rose into the night sky. Flickering orange light illuminated the horizon. My home. Burning. Every memory, every sense of safety, now reduced to ash and ruin. Lyra's grip on my arm tightened. "There's no turning back," she said quietly. "Whatever he wants, he's coming for it. And that includes you." I felt the weight of helplessness settle over me. The forest, the pack, the hunter, the fire, all of it closed in like a living nightmare. And I realized, with cold clarity, that my life had just become part of something far bigger and far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The glow from my burning home still lingered in my mind, painting the night sky with fiery orange streaks. I swallowed the lump in my throat, my thoughts heavy with loss and fear, yet I knew I couldn't dwell on what had been destroyed. The hunter was out there, and the only way we could stand a chance was to gain the upper hand. Lyra had something in mind, something dangerous and ancient. "We need to find it," she said, her eyes flicking to the darkened forest ahead. "There's an artifact, something older than even my pack. It's said to control the very essence of our power. If we possess it, we might have a chance against the hunter. If it falls into his hands, we're finished." I followed her, adrenaline and curiosity fueling every step. The forest had grown darker, thicker, the moonlight barely reaching the twisted undergrowth. Every snapped branch and rustle of leaves carried a threat. This section of the forest was cursed according to the legends Lyra had whispered. Old magic, dark roots, and guardians that had existed long before humans had dared set foot here. Hours passed as we pushed deeper. The air grew dense, heavy with a strange energy that made my skin crawl. Trees seemed to lean closer, their gnarled branches like claws stretching toward us. Shadows moved unnaturally, as though alive. And then we saw it. A clearing bathed in silver moonlight, with a stone pedestal at its center. Etchings ran across its surface, glowing faintly with an ancient script I could not read. But before we could reach it, a sound stopped us cold. A massive guardian creature emerged from the shadows, towering and imposing. Its fur shimmered with an unnatural sheen. Eyes glowing amber, claws long and sharp enough to tear through steel. It roared, a sound that shook the forest floor and rattled my bones. I froze. Lyra stepped forward calmly, her hands raised, signaling me back. "This is the protector," she whispered. "It will not let anyone take the artifact lightly, not even me." The guardian advanced, each step deliberate, and the ground seemed to tremble beneath its weight. Lyra moved with precision, dodging and weaving, her combat training on full display. I stayed low, heart hammering, but my gaze kept darting to the pedestal. The artifact rested there, pulsating faintly like it was alive, like it was waiting. And then, it happened. The artifact's glow intensified, brighter than I could have imagined. The light pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and I felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as if it was calling me specifically. My feet moved forward without permission, drawn in by an unseen force. Lyra shouted, trying to pull me back. "Ethan, don't..." But it was too late. The artifact's light engulfed my vision, humming with power, resonating deep within me. And in that moment I knew one terrifying truth. The forest had chosen me. And it wanted something from me. Something I couldn't yet understand.